I'm going to start today with a story. I was about 10 years old and my sister 12, when we really got excited with Alanis Morissette. I don't know if you know Alanis Morissette, but as a Brazilian coming from a low-income teenager single mom, was not exactly the kind of singer that we would look for. Anyways, we had an uncle in her early 20s, which was really cool, and brought us the CD of Alanis. When the CD came, actually, we got excited with the second element of the CD, which was the CD booklets. So I don't know how many of you here are actually born after the 2000. You might not have experienced CD booklets. Yes, I know, this is a very young audience. But they would actually come in the cover of the CD, and they would be something like today, the profile of the singers in the Instagram, but in the CD. So it would have pictures, photos, information, cool things, and hopefully lyrics. When my sister and I got the lyrics, we got really excited to try to replicate our own version of Alanis, right? At that point, me or her, both of us didn't have any kind of English education. Within Brazil, less of 5% of the population really speak English, and we were not part of the stats. So we got this booklet with the lyrics and asked one of the girlfriend actually of that cool uncle of ours to actually translate for us the lyrics. We were so excited about their harmonica and the song stringing of the Alanis, but there was something about really understanding the words that we were saying that was truly important. So with that piece of paper in hand and comparing that paper with the booklet, potentially that was our first English class. By learning English, comparing translations and booklets, we started to get along and got really excited about it. And not longer later than that, our mom made another effort, other than many of that she was already doing, to enroll us in an English class. And the rest actually is history as I speak today with you in English. If I have to say that the English changed my life, would be very little. Actually, absolutely changed the path of all the choices that happened after that moment. And all that happened because we were curious enough to go further, to get that book secret and really try to understand the lyrics. So I have to say that curiosity really changed our lives and really operates some magic in us. If we look at the definition of curiosity, we will see that curiosity is the eager wish to know or learn about something. I really love the part of eager wish because I think that's where the magic really happens. And I'm not the only one that thinks that's the magic really happens, because actually there is this study of University of California, a study that they tried with a few students to put an MRI, and while they are being curious in a curious state of mind, they would make some scans. What they realize is that when you're doing something that you're curious about, you have peaks of dopamine. And dopamine is a neurotransmitter that is part of our brain system, like the reward brain system, that makes us feel good, right? So dopamine was part of making curiosity really great. And that the results of that not only showed that at the moment people feel better, but also they had better learning capabilities, and that increased also their memory. So there was a lot of benefit in curiosity. If I think about it, my own experience again, curiosity has been leading from a lot of places since then. After that small journey with Alanis, I've been to other journeys. And I would have to say that the first one, about 6 years ago, I started in Google. And I think in Google, we work in a technology company, which is pretty much one of the most high-paced and uncertainty industries. When we think in a world that we already have to live the coronavirus or Australian fires, there's so much uncertainty around us. We have to add on top of that the world of technology. When I started in Google 6 years ago, I started in the marketing department. And the marketing department for me sounded like a good fit. At that point, I had made my way to the major of marketing, had several experiences in that field. And so it was kind of a natural fit. But I have to say that I was feeling really like an imposter. And the reason why I felt such an imposter is because in the industry of technology, you don't look back. You just look forward. And we really try to predict the future. When I worked in other companies in marketing, we would just reflect of the consumer behavior from the past years to try to, put together our strategies, make our plans. But in the world of technology, you really have to predict the future. The problem is that there is no crystal ball, not even for us. So we have to really go after understanding the needs of people. And how do we do that? Again, leading with curiosity, making more open questions and trying to really understand what is the customer's perspective and other visions was what led us there. And there I went, trying to figure out what to do in marketing and technology company. After that, I got really curious about that customer perspective. It took me to sales, which was an absolutely path that I have never thought before. Spending 3 years in sales was absolutely amazing. I learned so much, but also I have to say that enabled me to a new path that I was never expecting, which was working with product. So it's funny to see how curiosity leads you to new paths. When by working with clients really close and trying to understand in depth what were their needs, I started talking to engineers and other people to try to inform them what was the actually product that we should build. And that took me to a job in product, which I never expected before. And again, to a new surprise, that job in product took me to that journey from Brazil to Singapore. Today, I collaborate with 15 countries across Asia Pacific to try to shape the future of the products of Google. It's a very interesting job to do because as a Brazilian, I have absolutely no context of the business and social behaviors of India, Australia, Philippines, Vietnam. So it's been a very interesting journey. I have to say, if it wasn't for my curious mind and trying to really figure out things, I wouldn't be here. But maybe you're thinking at this point that curiosity was really important to me, and maybe you're thinking that you don't want to move from Singapore to Brazil, or some of you do. Or maybe you're also not thinking about moving from one kind of career to other. But all of us could benefit more curiosity in our lives. And some very important people say that they also lead with curiosity. So for example, Einstein said that I have no special talents, I'm only a passionate curious, he would say. Also Walt Disney, that we all know, it's like we keep moving forward, opening new doors and doing new things because we are curious. And curiosity keeps us leading us down new path. So at this point, if you don't believe in me, maybe you do believe in this white, well-known man, right? So that takes me to another topic which I'm very passionate about, and I think all of us could benefit from. Curiosity really helps us in a very important subject, which is creating inclusion. When we think about the way that we go into the world, we all know that we have prejudice, right? None of us are away from this. But curiosity can actually help us to open our minds, embrace new possibilities, and understand new visions. When we think about the concept of bias, is this natural or learned through the process ability for us to go against our other person, and many times in an unfair or even not even conscious way. So if we really want to create an inclusive world and inclusive community, we have to fight against those biases, and curiosity could be one of your best weapons. As a woman in tech, and a Latin woman in tech, I have to be honest that now it's not always easy. Many times I've been overlooked or ignored or mansplained. But on the flip side, I also can look back to my history and see that colleagues that had scholarship, just like I did in my schools, because they had a black color and I'm in Brazil considered white, I hold privilege and I was included and they were not. So it's not only about how we live in the world, but it's how we are open to new ideas and learning new possibilities. And I think we all could use a bit of that dopamine to help us change those behaviors and become more and more inclusive. If I have learned something through this whole process of moving from places to places and working in technology, or coming from a very low-income background to be here speaking to you today, I would try to resume it in 3 pillars that really makes anyone possible to become curious. I think the first element that can make anyone curious is starting to be present. There is this interesting study from Harvard that said that 47% of our waking time is actually thinking about something other than what we are doing now. That's a lot of time in passive, anxious state of mind, right? If we think about it, we can then just take a bit more of a presence and be mindful where we are to really try to connect with people today. The second pillar of trying to be more curious is about making open questions. There's one other study, this time from University of Buffalo, where they did these experiments with couples. And couples are always a good subject of experience, right? The goal was to try to understand if being more curious would actually lead to deeper connections. They separate the couples in 2 different groups, and one would lead with open questions, something like, what are you more grateful about? The other group would actually lead with more of closed questions, like objective, like, when was the last time that you walked for more than 1 hour? Comparing the results against these 2 groups, it was easy to see that those that have more open questions felt much more connected to their partners and had a better experience overall. Another, I think, important element is that even in the low curious minds, so people that were not naturally curious, they also feel the benefit. So indeed, it's something that any one of us can train. The third element of being more curious is take the time to actively listen. And this is really hard, right? I'm sure that while I speak, you all have inner voices talking to yourselves. I have that too. And that's where the biases come, right? Is that first reaction to something that really try to say, I get this, move forward. And while we try to find those inner voices and to really be present, open questions, and really try to connect with people, we will benefit from being more curious. So as we are here today, and you already took the time to listen to me, I urge you to all to try. Curiosity has made so much for me, and I'm sure that can also do to you. Either if you're looking to do some change in your life, learn a new skill, or even because you're really worried about creating a more inclusive community, any of those options, you could use more curiosity. So please try it today, don't leave it for tomorrow. And what about when we finish this presentation, you all try with the person seated next to you to ask, what were you most curious about today?